Hello. Welcome to AI Chat, AI Neuroscience Chat, but we're not really going to talk about neuroscience today. We're just going to talk about AI. Whoa, let me turn the music down. Actually, I might turn it way down here. So licenses are boring. There's no kind way to put it. When you're a programmer or a scientist, at some point you have to think about licenses. How do you want people to use your code or not use your code? How do you want people to attribute the source to you or to the company that paid for your work or something like that? There's a lot of questions about licensing, and in the same way that I think all new technology that's being developed brings with it hazards and risks as it's being developed, because it allows us to do things we could never do before. And when we're in a position as humans, you don't see my video? Are you guys having video problems? Hope not. One of the things you have to think about is as new technology comes, how is humanity going to use it, and how should we regulate that? Because sometimes, as was the case with dynamite and atomic energy and all that, and the internet, there's lots of unforeseen situations that come about. The revenge effects of technology, if you will. So let's talk about, and cloning, there's a lot of stuff. So I want to talk about this license that came sort of to my attention a while back. I don't remember where I saw it, but it piqued my interest enough that I thought I should take some time and look over it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this time to look over this license, kind of figure out what it's all about. I have barely looked at it yet, so I'm open for discussion. If you guys have opinions, I'm monitoring my stream strength. Everything looks okay because I'm very wary things are going to crash at any moment. So anyway, let's get a license. First, okay, so I'm going to download a license. This is the main website. Empowering developers. So does this mean that the license is focused towards developers? I don't know. Thousands of devs are working on machine learning and AI algorithms. Open source collaboration is an important challenge to keep the technology moving forward. But the potential for technology being used in unintended ways is a cause for caution. Releasing algorithms, code, or data can mean that developers and researchers must sacrifice control over the application of these artifacts. This can lead to a moral dilemma and harm the dissemination of scientific research. If it is used irresponsibly, this can impact us all. So the RAIL, or the Responsible AI Licenses, so there's more than one license here, empower developers to restrict the use of their AI technology in order to prevent irresponsible and harmful applications. So this is a tool for developers of AI and machine learning to restrict how it is used. Just sounds like a license. Mark Brown, BitKing on the chat says CRISPR is hot and nobody knows what to do with it. I think a lot of people have ideas of what to do with it, but the big question is, should we do that? There's a lot of should we questions in the world of CRISPR, for sure. I'm sorry. I get so worked up about the text here. I gotta fix it. Do you see this text up here? It was off center. I gotta figure out how that works. Anyway, most of the AI guidelines have been written by people that really don't know what they are regulating. Yeah, the ones that I've read in blog post format, those types of guidelines, they don't make a whole lot of sense. They're planning for the Skynet scenario. I mean, that's one of the miscalculations I think you can make. Is just assuming that's the scenario. Okay, let's get a license. Oh, which one do I want? Responsible AI licenses, volume 0.1. So this isn't even 1.0. There's an end user license. We recommend you include this license in addition to your existing end user license agreements. if any. You can use the end user license even if you do not have existing end user license agreement. All right, let's get that. Oh good, oh good, I don't have to actually download it. And then there's a source code license. We recommend you include a reference to this license at each modular block of your source code. In each file, preferably at each code, function, method, class, data structure, definition, and especially in methods that involve any algorithmic processing. So that's sort of different. Most licenses don't recommend that you include them at the function level. Usually you see a copyright header at the top of each code source file, and the license is only mentioned really in that copyright header. It just refers to wherever the license is, but it's usually per file, not. Let's look at the end user license first. Let me just see how long this is. So we've got a license, user account, company and user content, conduct and prohibitions, criminal. That's highlighted. This is kind of confusing. Listen chat. If they dictate the 3 laws of robotics, there is not a way to implement them. If someone dictates that the AI does not have human biases, then where will they find databases that don't have this bias? Yeah, that's exactly what. So I'm a little bit more interested in the open source license and the end user license agreement. So let's look at that one. That's a good point. That you have much less control over what users do with the products that you buy. The EULA. Everyone ignores EULAs, honestly. Has anyone read a EULA that came with a product that you personally bought? I understand companies have to pay attention to that stuff, but generally people ignore them. And when we're talking about AI, that will be in the hands of people, I imagine. People don't read EULAs. But the code source license, definitely people care about. Okay. So a lot of this is going to be boilerplate stuff, I think. The Responsible Artificial Intelligence Source Code License. RAISC. I don't know, just wondering if there's an acronym. If you access or use the software, you accept the license. If you do not accept the license, do not access or use the software. Typical definitions, I would hope. Capitalized terms. License means sections 1 through 8 of this document. There's no section 8. Okay, so I already see an issue. I already see an issue with this. There's no section 8. I'm going to mark that on the screen, so I can go back through it and look. Because I probably should send feedback, right? If I've got feedback, I'll send it to the originators of this. So that's first is there's no section 8. License means, okay, licensor means the copyright owner or legal entity authorized by the copyright owner that is granting the license. That would be me. If I were using this, everybody rips, yes, why would you not rip the tag off the mattress? Once a product is, no, I'm not going to go in. I'm not a libertarian, but I have libertarian tendencies, which I think everyone does. Don't tell me what to do with my stuff I bought, right? Anyway, stop getting me off track, Mark. So I'm looking at this from the licensor's perspective. It would be great if you guys could look at this from the licensee perspective, or an individual that I'm granting, because I'm thinking about is this a decent license to attach to the source code we're creating in the community or Numenta? That's my question. What I want to get out of this is, should I recommend anything that we start using this license? So I'm thinking of this almost entirely from the licensor standpoint, but we also have to think a bit from the people who are going to use the software, because we don't want to restrict them too much, or people won't use it. Right? That's the give and take there. So you as the individual. The terms reproduce, reproduction, derivative works, distribution have the same meaning here as under U.S. copyright law. Okay. Okay, so there's always the tricky idea that the GPL introduced, which is what does it mean to distribute code? But we'll get to that point when we get to it, I guess. I haven't said anything about that yet. Contribution means the original software, additions to the original software, modifications to the original software, derivative works of the original software. Contribution. So we're also talking about, oh yeah, okay. So we're talking about attribution, not attribution, a contribution. Any contributor is any person who provides a contribution. Okay. Additions, modifications, or derivative works. Okay, but this is tricky. Derivative works of the original software. I can't control how someone forks my code, and I guess that's the point of the license. We're going to try to control, and you can under the AGPL, for example. If we apply that license, and somebody could fork it and make a derivative work, which is NuPic core. Not NuPic core. NuPic.cpp, the community fork, is a derivative work. So we still enforce that AGPL over top of that derivative work. So that makes sense. Now, for most licenses, they say that whoever has the majority of the copyright of the work, and the derivative work then forks off of the original work. So at some point, there could be the majority of that work could now be in the hands of another agency, another group, or it's out of our control. Once they have contributed more to the original work than the original work, they have a right to change the license. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Mark says hobby versus commercialization and Numenta patents. This, yeah, so we try and make that distinction. Now we're getting off. See, that's another topic. Look. I think we've talked about this and about our license strategy and patent strategy on our blog and stuff. But we encourage hobbyists to make a better mousetrap if they publish it and show people how to do it. Absolutely. I don't think we wouldn't go after anybody for doing something like that. If they don't try and show people how to do it, and they just commercialize it, keep their contributions proprietary and commercialize it, and then that's the problem. Okay. All right, so we're through the terms, I think. There's a couple things here, like the 8 section that doesn't exist, and then this derivative work I made a note about. All right, so grant of rights. Subject to this license, each contributor grants you a non-exclusive, worldwide, royalty-free copyright license to reproduce its contribution, prepare derivative works of its contribution, and distribute its contribution or any derivative works of its contribution that you create. Okay, let's break this down. Each contributor, so they're basically saying everyone who has helped make this work is allowing you all this royalty-free copyright license to reproduce it, prepare a derivative work. You can fork it, you can take it and do something different with it, and distribute the contribution. So here, the first time that we're seeing distribute is right here. So another thing I have to think about is, does this license play nice with the AGPL? Because all of our code that contains HTM intellectual property is licensed AGPL. So if this says something counter to the way the AGPL considers distribution, it might be hard to make it work. So this is saying prepare derivative works of the contribution. So I'm thinking that's like creating a fork and adding my own stuff to it. And distribute its contribution. I'm assuming that's the derivative work. Its contribution. Oh, this is talking about the contributor's contribution. Okay. To distribute the contribution, essentially, or any derivative works of its contribution that you create. So I'm wondering if this distribution part is a problem. I'm confused about I'll have to think about this distribution part. So this is the first time, like I said, we've talked about distribution, and if you look at the AGPL v3, it's a little bit more complicated. When it talks about distribution, to propagate. So this is what it talks about. To propagate a work means to do anything with it that without permission would make you, no wait, this isn't exactly what this isn't it. Where is this section? There's this famous section in here. Here, conveying non-source forms, additional terms, termination, patents. It's service mark, service, support service. No, that wasn't it. The difference between LGPL and AGPL, I can't remember. I can't remember. It's been a while. It's super subtle. The AGPL is the strictest one. It means, at least the differentiating factor with the AGPL is that it considers standing up a service a distribution. And the GPL does not. But the intent, this was before, the GPL was written before there was all these software as a service, the software as a service model existed. So they thought of distribution as essentially bundling up code and deploying it with your application, sending it somewhere, right? Sending it somewhere for you to be installed on your computer, right? That was distribution. But with the internet, with more internet services, came from, I don't think it matters whether it's binary or whether it's source code, either one, I think. But the movement of that from point A to point B so it can be run on point B, that was the distribution. Now, but then people would start thinking, well, we can get around this because I will just, I'm not shipping it to a computer, I'm just going to take the source code that I have. When I deploy it to a customer, it doesn't deploy. I just stand up a service and the customers come to the service. And that is, the AGPL essentially says when you stand up a service like that, you have, if the code is AGPL, then that is distribution. So that's like we've got, but you can get around that too. I mean, you can create you can I don't want to talk about the AGPL too much. I do need to make sure that what it considers distribute. Okay. So, I mean, the whole sense is free. This is all about free as in freedom. You know, they want the ideas to be free. Knowledge wants to be free, right? So the GPL is there to make sure you have the freedom to distribute copies of free software. Free as in freedom. Cert copyright. Okay, where is? There is a certain like phrase in here. Maybe I was in the right place. Maybe it's this thing about propagation. To propagate a work means to do anything with it that, without permission, would make you directly or secondarily liable for infringement under applicable copyright law, except executing it on a computer or modifying a private key. Okay, so propagation, so they're considering not, like, running a program is not a propagation of the program. This includes copying, distribution with or without modification, making available to the public, and in some countries, other activities as well. I don't think that's the phrase that I'm looking for. I know it has to do with distribution. You may convey covered work in an object code under the terms of sections 4 and 5. No, this isn't it. I think physical distribution medium. This is why we wanted to use the APGPL, is because of this patent piece provision. You may not convey a covered work if you are a party to an arrangement with a third party. If you are a party to an arrangement with a third party, you are a party to an arrangement with a third party that is in the business of distributing software. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Legalese is, ugh. Legalese. That's frustrating. Okay, let's go back to, this is something that I think I'll have to just keep in mind as I keep going. All right, if you distribute any portion of the contribution, you must include a complete copy of this license with the distribution. That's reasonable. And you agree that the contribution or any derivative work of the contribution will not be used by you or any third party subject to your control to. Okay, so here's I think the meaty stuff. So there's three sections here: surveillance, computer generated media, healthcare, criminal. 4 sections. Okay, so there's surveillance restrictions. Will not be used to detect or infer any legally protected class or aspect of any person as defined by the U.S. federal law. Detect or infer any legally protected class or aspect of any person as defined by U.S. federal law. So what a legally protected class is not defined except by federal law. What is this even? I sort of know this is trying to prevent discrimination, right? Detecting or inferring any legally protected class or aspect of any person. So, oh, I know. So you don't want to say, find me all of the, some specific race of someone in a video or something like that, or a sex, gender, whatever. Okay, 2 is detect or infer aspects and or features of an identity. Any person, detect or infer aspects and or features of an identity, any person. See, that doesn't make sense. Of an identity, any, detect or infer aspects and or features of an identity, and I think that's a typo. Any person such as name, family name, address, gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, age, location, at any geographical level, skin color, society, political affiliations, employment status, and or employment history, and health and medical conditions. Yeah, this is back to the problem with bad training database tainting the system. Yeah, totally. That doesn't keep that from happening. I mean, bias can exist no matter if any of these. I mean, bias will still exist. It depends. I mean, bias is something you can't anticipate in some aspects. So, right? Yeah, bad credit approval based on extracted properties. That's right. And this says nothing about that. You can't prevent that. It's all, I mean, you can put in place something that says you should look for bias in these ways or something, but this, I don't even know if I. So we want to prevent. So basically, this is saying that no one is going to be able to use our software to specifically call out aspects of people. So what if I wanted to find all the blue-eyed people in the world? I don't know. And we wanted the software to somehow do that. That would be illegal. That would be restricted. Doesn't really make sense. I mean, this is basically legally protected class or aspect. So that's what I don't understand. As defined by you, what is a legally protected class or aspect? U.S. federal law, legally protected class or aspect. Is this just somebody making this up? Types of discrimination. What are the protected classes under federal law? EEO terminology. Race, religion, color, equal employment opportunity program. That's not what I want. Employment discrimination, types of discrimination. So is this the type of thing we're looking for, like something that'll identify age? See, we can't do this. This doesn't seem right. I mean, a lot of these programs that I assume, these applications that I expect people to make with our technology is going to be to try and identify some of these things. What people do with that power is sort of up to them. You could use that to make improvements for all of these. You could try and find elderly people who are vulnerable to scammers and create an agent that finds those people so that you can inform them and educate them about the scams, right? And yeah, this certainly varies by country, but this is an example of those types of things that they're talking about here. The legally protected class or aspect. I mean, because they're trying to prevent discrimination here. Yeah, EU's more restrictive. See, I'm not sure that this is the right thing to do. Here's the thing, I mean, the people who are going to be using this power, and I mean, I guess this is the classic argument, you know, the criminals are going to be doing this either way. So do we want to use the same power to prevent them from targeting these people? Or the unethical people, I should say, are going to be doing this either way. So I don't know. I just see a lot of application from being able to identify certain types of people in order to help them. And I would hate to disqualify all applications of a certain technology in a huge area such as that. What does everybody else think? Jeremy says it seems limiting, especially if you're attempting to attain general intelligence. Isn't that type of classification just basic intelligence? Well, yes, that's certainly the thing. And like, what do you consider surveillance? You could turn on an agent. Like, I assume we're going to have agents in video game worlds soon enough. That, I mean, we already do, but like intelligent agents. And an agent might be able to identify types of, like, stereotypes of players in the world, just based on how they play the game, you know, and we might not even be able to really verbalize with them, but they would be surveilling and classifying on lots of different aspects of a person, and whether they're legally protected or not, the intelligent thing might not even be able to identify that at the time. It's tricky, you know. You have to define to measure, so researchers would run afoul of this clause. You have to define to measure. Yeah, it seems that way. It seems I'm running into the very first thing. I'm like, wow, that cuts off basically everything we would do with an intelligent system. I mean, we want it to interact with human beings. We have to have it understand human beings, and if they can't detect or infer legally protected class or aspects of people, how are they going to be intelligent? Any human has the ability to do this, to detect or infer a legally protected class or aspect of any person. And we're saying right off the bat, number one, you can't do that. That crosses intelligent things off the chart, right? I think I agree with you guys. It's immediately like a non-starter. Jeremy says it seems to me like just as much could come out of these technologies. Yeah, it's I'm a big believer in that technology pushes us in a certain direction. Technology is dangerous, but so far we've done okay. We haven't killed ourselves yet. But the thing is, it's going to go on. It's going to keep developing. You can't put the brakes on technological development. You can't. It won't work. You just have to try and guide it. And if you guide it too restrictively, everybody's going to be like, nope, whatever. And then you're trying to guide all the good guys to do one thing, while the technology is showing an explosion in another field. You have to follow the technology, and this doesn't seem to be following what I would consider an explosion of intelligent things, or like the creation of AGI. Mark says, this is what I opened with. They are trying to do the right thing, but are not understanding what they're saying means. Yeah, I think that's the same thing. They have to know that it's a bad thing to know how to not do it. They have to know what it is a bad thing to know how to not do it, right? Yeah. All right. So let's move on, because so this is a total non-starter for me. Again, I think we all sort of agree. Let's get another comment from Peter Kovalev. Is it possible to kind of serialize HTM sequence memory as a huge tree of binary SDRs over time, snapshots of binary activity of all the neurons in the columns? That's certainly possible. Yeah, you could definitely do that. And in fact, I have done it before. So, yeah. The strength of each branch is adjusted by the input over time. That doesn't make sense. That's what the TM does, right? You don't need to serialize every step of the way. The TM is doing that. Like it's leaving sort of a trail of synapse strengths as it's feeding data into it. Yeah. Hey, thank you for the follow, Single Mingle. This is not a singles chat, but I'm glad you're here. Falco's already apologizing. It seems not to be possible to lower the stream quality at this time. I have no control over the stream quality. It's Twitch is supposed to decide what stream quality you should get and deliver it to you. And I'm sorry if you're having a bad Twitch experience. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry for apologizing. Okay, let's go to computer-generated media. Let's see what this says. Synthesize. So another thing you're not supposed to do. Synthesize and or modify audio realistic and or video realistic representations indistinguishable from photo video recordings of people and events without including a caption, watermark, and or metadata file indicating that the audio realistic and or video realistic representations were generated using the contribution. I think I could probably get on board with that. But I mean, you're going to be constantly having that logo everywhere. I mean, eventually people are going to just ignore it because it's going to be everywhere. So I don't think it's really going to help. I think that's something that, I mean, we're creating our own reality here, and everybody creates their own reality. We're going to have to use our brains to identify what's real and what's not, just like we always have. That's just the world that we live in. But that's not awful. I think you can work around that. Well, every piece of art is going to have a big stamp on it that says this was not created by a human or had contributions from a robot, or I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, think about all of the music that you hear that's somewhat, you could already say this is happening, you know. So I wouldn't say that's a non-starter, but I'd say that I don't think it matters. I think people are going to believe what they want to believe, whether there's a thing on there or not. And then you can just start taking other videos and stamping the thing on there and saying, here's Tom Cruise on Oprah, but this is AI generated. I mean, I don't think that's going to help. Healthcare. So it cannot predict the likelihood that any person will request to file an insurance claim. cannot determine an insurance premium or deny insurance applications or claim. This is so this is like what insurance companies do. This is what insurance companies do. This is what the humans at insurance companies currently do. They predict the likelihood that any person will request to file an insurance claim. What's the problem with offloading that to an algorithm? Yeah, exactly, Mark. My mom and grandma were just in town, and I have this TV stand. I have a TV stand, like the kind you just fold out, right? And I was telling my mom how ridiculous this Prop 65 has made these warnings in California, and I look at the TV stand on the bottom of it, and it says the TV stand is known by the state in California to cause cancer. The TV stand. Must not be a big deal. I mean, they're still selling it at Target. Anyway. I mean, I'm worried about the health. The thing is, the companies need to be held accountable. The algorithms they use aren't the problem. It's the companies and the policies. It's not the algorithms that they're using. Predict the likelihood any person to file an insurance claim based on determining lifestyle. That's what humans currently do. And I mean, you can't tell the AI, you can't restrict AI applications to not do what we're already doing. I don't see what the point of that is. Determine an insurance premium or deny insurance applications or claims based on data determining a lifestyle of a person, medical test reports, demographic details of a person. I don't have a problem with any of these as long as you restrict the company and the humans too, not the algorithms. I mean, if you want to prevent healthcare insurance companies from predicting the likelihood that any person will request to file an insurance claim, make that the law. Don't restrict it to the software we're writing. Make that the law. The companies can't do that. Because just restricting it to the software is sort of silly. Yeah, it's definitely safe harbor warnings for lawsuits. I mean, I get it. It's just silly. How can I prove to anybody that my TV table caused grandma's cancer? So these all seem, I'm not saying these are bad ideas. I'm just saying it doesn't seem, you should apply it to the situation, not the algorithm. Diagnose a medical condition without human oversight. So that's sort of interesting, but I still think, I mean, that's what we want, right? I mean, again, this should be an application, this restriction should be applied to an insurance company or a doctor's office, not the software. Of course we're going to want software that diagnoses a medical condition. That's what we're trying to find. We want an algorithm that says this person most likely has cancer or will get cancer in 10 years or something. If we could find that, that'd be amazing, right? If we apply this license, we can't do it. Okay, criminal stuff. So we can't predict the likelihood that a crime will be committed by any person. So that, I mean, we're talking about like a Minority Report style, right? By any person, does that mean any one person? Does that mean like analyzing Fred Johnson in Butte, Montana, and like feeding and having an agent analyze everything about that person and then predict whether or when he's going to commit a crime or something like that, the likelihood that this person is going to commit a crime? I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. I wouldn't want an algorithm doing that. But again, this is something I wouldn't want the police doing on me, just being humans. Unless there is, this person is under surveillance because, they're a criminal, or there's some evidence against them that they have or will commit a crime. But if this is just an umbrella thing, like nobody can just pick a random person and do the work it takes. Like even if you're a detective, if no one would allow you to pick Fred Johnson in Butte, Montana, and just spend the next week of your life analyzing whether he's going to predict a crime or not. We don't have a system set up to do that. So I get the point they're making. They don't want the AIs we're creating to try and do this on everybody. Yeah, it's the precogs idea. So I get that. But again, make this law an organizational law, not specifically about the software that we're putting, because we might want to have a piece of software that has the ability to analyze a person, especially if they are a criminal, if they have a record, and the police already suspect them of criminal activity. I mean, that's a tool in the crime justice toolbox, right? Predict the likelihood of any person being a criminal or having committed the crime is the same thing. Predict the likelihood of any person being a criminal based on the person's facial attributes, or another person's facial attributes. Okay, maybe I can get on board with that. I don't know, but that's again all about bias. What does it have to, what type of facial attributes? I mean, you cannot predict. So this is true. You shouldn't take someone's exposed emotions, or like the emotions that they seem to be showing, and assume what they're feeling based on that. So this is interesting. So facial attributes, that's interesting. Maybe, but again, the bias is going to be in the data in this case. It's not going to be something that you can code out, and the license is going to take care of. Predict the, we did that. Crime will be committed based on of another, predict the likelihood of crime will be committed of a person based on evidence collected, facial and emotion analysis, or other such. Wait a minute. So we're not allowed to predict the likelihood of a crime being committed by any person based on evidence collected. What is the Uyghurs, right? Yeah. I'm not saying this is good, but this is, again, these are policies that should be applied to humans and machines, not just humans, or not just machines. It's not about the software that we're writing. These restrictions are higher level things. Everyone needs to be aware of these things, not just the people writing AI software. Name, family name. Yeah, so this is all just about anti-discrimination for criminal stuff. Heart rate, perspiration, breathing. So they're covering all their bases here. So they don't want to use any of those types of data to predict the likelihood of a person being a criminal based on the person or other users. Other users. Did we define the term user? No. Does that mean another person? All right. Other users. Okay, so this just basically says you can't do anything to predict whether somebody is a criminal, right? That's what all this stuff is, basically. You can't predict whether someone's a criminal based on data. Right? That's what it's saying. You can't predict whether someone is a criminal, or whether they will commit a crime, or whether they have committed a crime based on any data. I'm sorry, I can't see that working out. The bias is in the data. I mean, the data bias is going to be a problem even if you restrict all this in software. The data bias is going to come out in the human analysis. So, Mark says, stress in people going through an airport or bank line It's in the face and the body. Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't mean that they're guilty, though, you know. But the thing, different people in different cultures express different emotions in different ways. And some cultures, some emotions don't even exist. So it's like emotion is more of a cultural artifact than an evolutionary artifact. Well, a genetic artifact, I would say. I think you can only use this information under special provision from the authorities. Well, yeah, but this says, this is basically, you agree that the contribution will not be used by you or any third party to do any of this stuff. That has no, there doesn't say that you, unless there's some special authority. It's just, it doesn't, I don't know. Okay. I'm not terminating the license. So I already sort of know that this isn't going to work for any real AGI type of software. It might make sense for some, you know, weak AI, existing weak AI stuff. But again, the data bias is not really addressed here. Except the data bias is addressed here by basically restricting any prediction of criminal activity at all based on any data. So you sort of emit the bias when you emit the data. So they fixed that problem. Okay, that's all I got. So I'm pretty sure that I'm. Let's look at about this. I haven't even read through the site. You know, we didn't go over Section 8. That's right. Maybe there's some comment from this on some other AI forum somewhere. People must have discussed this before. There you go. Maybe you guys could search that. Look up responsible AI license and see if there's any other opinions on it. The problem, I sort of know what the problem is. Limited control over how it's used. This didn't say anything about weapons at all, did it? Isn't that weird? Or maybe that was in the EULA. That could have been in the EULA. No weapons, offend. There's offend. There's no, there it is, offensive conduct. That's about legal stuff. So there's not even, so I would have expected this to be more Skynet, you know, the offensive deal. You know, the 3 laws of robotics or whatever. Moral dilemma. Why? How real works. Restricting AI ML software from being used in a specific list of harmful applications. Surveillance, crime prediction while allowing other applications. The key goal of Real Team is to advance in important conversation. How can we move from mere talk to real action when it comes to developing responsible AI and ML technologies? Real Team believes this will require significant changes in the practice of our profession, including rethinking fundamental infrastructure like software licenses. We expect this will be controversial, but anticipate that the ensuing discussion will be highly constructive, leading to new versions of Real licenses. Feedback via our website. So here's where I'll give feedback. Oh, this is just the website I'm on. So you know what I'll do? When I'm done with this, I'll just post the whole stream. They can watch it in an hour. Y licenses. I already know Y licenses. So they only have the 2. Oh, there's a team. This person. So here's Daniel McDuff. This person is called Danish Contractor. That's kind of weird. Julia Haynes, Danish Contractor. And he doesn't look Danish. He could be a contractor. But Danish Contractor is an AI researcher. But he's not a Danish contractor. I like that name. Christopher Hines. That reminds me. He sounds familiar. And Brent Hecht. I don't know those people off the top of my head. Whose definition of responsible? Good question. Why are you focusing only on 4 domain areas? It's the first version of the license. Okay, so maybe they'll add weapons, violence or something. Why are you focusing only on AI applications? Good question. It means the same algorithm trained on different data can serve a very different purpose than no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. They can't do this yet. This doesn't exist yet. Again, I think we're looking at the wrong problem here. Why can't I define my own clauses? I don't want to define my own clause. Okay. That's it, you guys. I'm done. I did a whole hour. Well, almost. 50 minutes. So, and a couple more comments. Maybe regulation. This is from Mr. IO. Hello, welcome to the Twitch stream. Thanks for commenting. Regulation 2, constituent technologies like GPU acceleration or quantum computing is critical for AI research and development. You mean regulating those constituent? You mean you want to regulate GPU acceleration and quantum computing? I'm not sure why you want to regulate GPU acceleration. Jeremy says, do you think this license is just to protect the developer from being held responsible? I mean, say someone did take your code that was released under this license and used it for nefarious outcomes. What recourse would a developer even have to stop it? You could sue. That's about it. So yeah, you could sue because they're violating the license, and that is expensive. So you'd have to have a really good reason to do it. So they have to be really violating the license, I would think. But I think that's all you could do, and that's if it's in the United States. You know, if it's international, it's a whole other thing. Just go with the 3 laws of robotics and be done with it. That's not a bad idea. I like the 3 laws of robotics. All right, so that's it, everybody. We talked about the responsible AI license and sort of decided that at this point in time it was not something we were going to consider. And if you have any questions or comments about that, come to HTM Forum, and you can comment there. If I can, I messed up my. Here's the thing. I messed up my chat bot a little bit, but there's the link to HTM Forum. Hope that works. And I'll put this video on YouTube, so thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks a lot. And if you're watching on Twitch, follow me. And check out my events page on my Twitch channel. I've got it laid out for the rest of the week. I'm going to try and keep it a week ahead. Okay, so you know what I'm going to be working on all the time. And Mark says, bad guys will still use GPUs as they are commonly available. Yeah. Restricting hydrile makes it harder to abuse nuclear technology. I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to let it go. I'm going to, hey, you know what? Since not everybody's gone yet, I will, we'll raid somebody real quick. Who am I following? Who's online right now? Let's give somebody else some viewers. Let's go to Raimu. He's a good guy. Haven't rated him in a little while. Thanks, everybody. Go check out what he's doing in C++. He was making a C++ project, web project, like a React front end, I think. So here we go. Ready to go in 7 seconds. Take care and say hi to Raimu for me.